Yeah, welcome guys. So today we're going to cover these topics. Why Cypress default folder does not get created. Sometimes you download Cypress, you do not get the default framework that Cypress provides us. So today we're going to go work out like what is the default framework that Cypress provides us and the folder structure, how it is maintained. And also we're going to look on Cypress Test Runner and Cypress Dashboard. If anybody knows these features, they can just skip to next video. Let's get started, guys. So the first thing first is I'm just going to have my Visual Studio here. I'm just going to type Visual Studio Code Editor and just open that. Now in previous video, we have created a folder in C drive in my system. If you have created somewhere else, we have to navigate to that folder now. So we have to click on File, Open Folder, or we have to go through this Explorer, Open Folder. So there are two options in Visual Studio. Now you click on that, navigate to the drive. So on previous video, we have created this folder. So automation. Now you have to navigate inside this folder. Do not click any subfolder within this folder. Otherwise you will end up doing a wrong import. So just navigate inside and click on select folder. It will import these folders as well as certain JSON files. So package log.json and package.json we have already covered in previous video, and what is the difference between them. Cypress.json file will be empty at the moment, but this is an important file which we're going to cover in our upcoming video sessions as well. Now the main point I want to touch point on this is like around the Cypress folder structure. So Cypress has basically four folder structure. One is fixture, integration, plugins, and support, which we mainly use, right? So screenshots is also there, guys. So I have some screenshots over there because I already did one run. So uh, just ignore that. For you, it will be empty. Even videos will be empty for you. So we're going to cover in a moment all that stuff as well. Now in fixture folder, guys, you have all your data. So data, when I say, for example, they have given one example.json, which has like a name and email and body as keys. So we're going to maintain our data in Cypress in form of .json files, which is also a good positive point, which I feel, because you have even your data sets in your same code base, and you can commit or pull and push to central repository, and it doesn't gives you much error messages, right? Because other data sets like Excel, especially when it comes to source code management, it gets really difficult because it results in lots of conflicts. Now integration folder has your spec files. So in Cypress we have spec.js file, guys. JS means JavaScript, but it is equivalent to .java file in our Java. All right. So that's the extension that Cypress files have, .spec.js. So that's a notation that we will follow throughout our series. And whatever you're seeing here are some default examples that this framework has provided. These are like a combinations of various possible element locators that we can use in our automation. We're going to run through these, but anyways, guys, we're going to delete this entire stuff because we will be starting our framework from the scratch. Now coming to plugins and support. If you would see, I have index.js file in plugins and I have index.js file in my support folder as well. So what I have in plugins, guys, is exactly these two are not similar. So whatever I have in plugins, these serves as a additional plugins that I can install on the global level, right? So because index.js of plugins will be the first file to load when you open the folder, but even when you run all the test cases, it will always be loaded in the background, right? It will also load before you execute, before you even start your browser, right? So over here, for example, you can keep another browser configuration over here. So by default, Cypress provides Electron browser to run our scripts if you do not provide any browser. But you can parameterize our browser to Chrome, to Firefox, to Microsoft Edge as well. So these are the four basic I would say the browsers that Cypress supports at the moment. Apart from that, it can also support some Chromium versions like Brave, and I think there's Vivaldo as well, if I remember the name correctly. So if you want to install those browsers, we can do it in index.js file. So which we're going to cover in our subsequent sessions as we progress through the Cypress series. Now, apart from that, guys, we also have this command.js. and index.js in support. So index.js in support folder is nothing but you can import your global parameters. So when I say global parameters, for example, if you want to use anything on global level, like let's say I want to do a import on global level, right? So let's say I want to import something, let's say my references, right? Basically, so that my all the specs can refer from one single location rather than writing individually in each spec. I can just write it in index.js file, right? We will cover it practically, guys. This session is just to give an introduction of it, a brief introduction, and to show you how things happens, right? But we will cover everything in detail. Now command.js is works like a utility package. You can create your common methods over here. Any method created inside command.js can be used across the framework in any of the spec files, right? Now apart from that, I think that's about it, guys. So videos, whatever we will run, it will come over here. You can also change your default folder structure. That also we will cover, because in from industry perspective, we don't really use the default one. We will have our own folder structure that we want to maintain as per our project. So that also we're going to cover. Now quickly, let's just get started on sometimes, guys, I think you do not have this Cypress folder, right? So how you can bring it back, you just have to fire npx cypress open, right? And how you can fire it, either you can go inside this folder structure through command line, right? Over there you can type npx cypress open, or you can now Visual Studio Code has important feature, it provides its own terminal. So you go to terminal, you click on new terminal. Once you do that, it will open up the terminal inside this folder. So you have to remember, guys, you have to be inside this folder structure, and then you have to fire npx cypress open. So what is npx? I have made a separate video in my JavaScript tutorials where I have explained the difference between npm and npx. You can refer those series if you want to learn in detail about this. So to give you a short note, npx is nothing but an executable, right? It helps to execute the local installations, right? So once I do that, my Cypress test runner will open, right? So test runner is the next topic which I told we'll be covering, right? And we will also see the time travel feature. So this is our test runner, guys, right? So I have not logged in yet. So these are the components it has. It has tests, it has runs, it has settings tab. Now in test tab, it has the various spec files. If I click on any one of the spec file, it will open up in the browser, which is mentioned over here, running Chrome 91. Right. So meanwhile that runs, right? These are the various spec files. Clicking on each, it will just start running. So that's how simple it is, guys. Cypress. So it will give you all the test cases in that UI. You click on any test case and it will start running. If it is an end-to-end test case, you can just click on run all tests, right? Which we will be definitely covering in the upcoming sessions. So over here, if you see, it has already started the execution. Yes. So see, this is slow typing, this is fast typing, and Cypress is comparatively, guys, it is really fast, right? Because Cypress so it's just like it directly interacts with the browser. There is no mid layer. Like in Selenium, we have a mid layer. So I'll make a separate video on what is the difference between Selenium and Cypress, right? Now, what is the time travel feature, guys? Let it just complete the execution, then we will cover it. Meanwhile, coming back to test runner, it has this runs tab as well, right, guys? So what this runs tab helps us is it helps us to connect to the Cypress dashboard. This what we are seeing now in the screen is Cypress test runner, right? So where you can physically run your test case. We also have Cypress dashboard where you can globally control your test cases. So how we can utilize it? You can just log into dashboard. You have to sign up, guys, if you're not signed up, right? For me, I have already registered with the GitHub. So I'm just going to log in with GitHub, right? Because it has already remembered my username and password over there. So you'll get this screen, guys. Enter your organization name. You can mention any of the organization name, like whichever company you're working for, and then your project name. So let's say I will just mention here Cypress Industrial Project 1, right? That's it, guys. It's as simple as that. So you just have to click on setup project. As soon as you do that, guys, there are 2 points to note down. First thing is, I just want to show you the JSON file that we were discussing. If you would see, our cypress.json file was empty to start with. Now it has one parameter, which is project ID, has a value gmt, whatever the project ID it is. So this is the project ID. It is created by default, through Cypress window. So as soon as you just log into it, and it will give you project ID. So every project will have a unique ID. So that is how Cypress will identify which test to run from which project, right? Now this we ran using the command npx Cypress run. Now we can also run Cypress through headless mode, right? We always don't we need not use test runner, right? Test runner is where you want to see your actual executions happening, but if you use a headless mode, you wouldn't see the execution happening. So we'll cover that in a moment. Now let's just go back to see how our test has been run through Cypress. So yeah, this is the window. So it has finished running the execution, guys. So the time travel feature. Now I'll show you the time travel feature. So it has ran almost 14 tests. All have passed, right? So let's just click on this one. If I hover over anything, guys, let me just scroll up, right? Now it has visited this URL. See, it is getting highlighted. So that's a command to visit the URL, right? And it has typed fake@email.com. So if you see, if I click on that, it has highlighted that element. So this is, guys, time travel, right? So if you click on any type command, it will highlight that in the browser itself, right? So it somehow it remembers what it has done, and then it travels back and shows us what actually happened during this time. So during this time, this was typed into this field. Now guys, at the same time, I can also use this selector. So that's an open selector playground, which is a feature of Cypress which comes inbuilt to the browser in whichever it is running the test case. If I click on this, I can hover over this element and get the CSS selector. We will cover this in detail, guys. So by default, Cypress works on CSS selectors. We can also install XPaths, right? That we will cover in our subsequent sessions. So this is actually a time travel feature, guys, which is a really good feature. You know, you can just click on that and you can see, okay, this is my element. You can actually see in the browser. So in other tools, if you see, once you run, you cannot visualize in browser. It's just on console or somewhere else. But in Cypress, it remembers things. You can travel back in time. So that is what the first feature of time travel is actually what they have mentioned in their features on the documentation that we have covered in previous video as well. Now guys, this UI will be interacting more on it, right? I'll just leave it here. Now coming back to our Cypress test runner, I have copied this command now. So I'm just going to stop the test cases for now. You can obviously change the browser to Edge 90 or Firefox 86 or Electron if you want to rerun these test cases, right? Now I have logged in. Before that, let me cover this settings tab also. Now settings tab has these key parameters. So all the configuration that you have, your cypress.json file, your index.json file, or any environment file you add, you can find all the configuration over here. So this is pretty self-explanatory, guys. This will create project ID. This will have your record key, which we just generated. This will have your node.js version. One important point to note over here, guys, your node.js version, right, need not be the same whatever you have installed in your system, because Cypress has its own node.js version, right? It necessarily not to be the same as you have in your system, right? So it can be different, right? Because Cypress uses its own node.js to run things. You have proxy settings, right? If you're working in an organization, you will definitely be under a proxy. So over here you can mention, or you can configure over in your Visual Studio editor, and it will show you over here, right? And file opener preferences, as guys, if let's say you have some error message in your code, right? So then in Eclipse and other IntelliJ IDEA tools, it will highlight that error, and you can click on that link and it will take you to the .java file, right? Whichever has having that error. So it's almost similar to that. So we will cover that once you run it. Once we go into execution and scripting, we will know that and cover that. So this is, guys, experiments feature. You need not really bother about it, because I think they're going to take it down. The reason being because they have mentioned in their official documentation as well, the experimental features might change or ultimately be removed without making it into the core product. Though they're doing some improvement to it, but I think ultimately they're going to take it down because it's not really serving the purpose. But just to give a brief introduction about it, you can give it a read as well. You can just control few events like before run, after run, right? So I'm not going to go into the detail of this because you will be able to understand better once you have actually gone through almost 4 or 5 Cypress tutorial videos, right? Then probably I can cover in one session what is this experiment is. Okay, So over here I have covered everything now. I have covered these three tabs. Now let's see, let me close the Cypress test runner. Since now we have logged into Cypress dashboard. Let's see how the dashboard works. I'll come back to my Visual Studio. Now this is my terminal again. I have copied the command and I'll just paste it. So this command we have copied from our runs tab from Cypress test runner, and I'll press enter. Okay, it's giving some error. Okay, yeah, sorry guys. So you just have to do it with npx. Okay, I haven't used that. Npx is again an executable. It helps to execute. Now, what I'm telling Cypress is you run my tests, right? You also record them, right? And I have given the key also. So this key will be unique to my project. So whichever key I'll provide, I'll press enter. It will start running those tests. And if I go to my dashboard now, right? So over here, you have got this message once you logged in to Cypress dashboard. So just hit one thing, just hit this URL. Hi guys, so I'm just having some hard time in recording the last part of this session. So this is how your Cypress dashboard looks like. If you click over here, you can see your tests. You can see. So over here, I've been trying from a long time to record this particular last part of the session. For you, you might be seeing this is still coming up, and you can click over here, and you can see your test results, your passed, failed, flaky tests. Right, in your test results you'll actually see each test, wherein you can also watch the video of your tests. If you will click this button, it will show you the video of your test. So obviously it didn't get recorded because I manually cancelled it because I was just experiencing some issues with my recorder. Now over here these things are pretty self-explanatory, right? Your run status, it just gives you the status of the runs of your tests within this project, your run duration, your test suite size, your top failures, and this one is again one important feature, your slowest test, right? This actually helps me guys. So once you go into production, right, or you are about to go into production, you really don't want to run all the tests, right? You only run the ones which are pretty fast and quick and which will prove everything for you. So this tab will actually help you to skip your slow tests. Now guys, in project settings, you can delete your project. You can integrate it with Bitbucket, GitLab, or Git repository. So we're going to cover throughout, as we progress through these Cypress series. You can remove your project in case you don't need it. Okay, so that's all about the Cypress dashboard, guys, right? And this was just to give you an overview, right? We will be covering this in detail in our further upcoming sessions. This is just to give you a brief introduction so that you don't feel something new has suddenly popped up, right, while we are going through the scripting and execution sessions. Thank you guys. Do like and subscribe and leave your comments in the comment section if you have any doubts, if you want me to make some in-depth videos of any functionality, right? I'll be definitely I'll be glad to do that. And just leave your comments over there. Thank you guys.